Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our class in Disaster Readiness and Risk Reduction. We are now in week 6 of our lesson. Today's most essential learning competencies is to identify various potential earthquake hazards and analyze the effects of these hazards. But before we start, here are some reminders. Kindly place your answers and questions on our comment section and observe proper netiquette. Have you experienced earthquake? Did you know that the deadliest and the strongest earthquake that happened in the Philippines was on 1976 in Mindanao? With a 7.9 magnitude and almost 3,000 casualties. This Mindanao earthquake is officially the strongest and the deadliest earthquake in Philippine history. Almost 40,000 people in regions 9 and 12 were also left homeless by this tragedy. And speaking of, what are the things or scenarios that come into your mind when you hear the word earthquake? Collapsed buildings and houses, landslides, shaking or trembling of the ground. The big one, by the way, it is the worst case scenario of a 7.2 magnitude earthquake from the West Valley Fault, a 100-kilometer fault that runs through 6 cities in Metro Manila and nearby provinces. And the last one is death and injuries among people. These are some of the scenarios that come to our mind once we hear the word earthquake. These are some of the scenarios that come to our mind once we hear the word earthquake. But what is earthquake? Earthquake is also known as the tremor or natural phenomenon characterized by a feeble shaking to a violent trembling of the ground produced by the sudden displacement of rocks or rock materials below Earth's surface. There are two types of earthquakes. Earthquake induced by rising lava or magma beneath active volcanoes are called volcanic earthquakes. This is the first type of earthquake. The second type is those generated by the sudden displacement along faults in the solid and rigid layer of the earth, which called as tectonic earthquake. This lesson will focus on tectonic earthquakes. Since we have mentioned here faults, do you know what is faults? It refers to a fracture, fissure, or zone of weakness where movement or displacement has occurred or may occur again. A fault is said to be active fault if it has historical and contemporary seismicity, has evidence of fault slip based on displaced rocks or soil units of known age and displaced landforms. An active fault is defined as a fault which has moved within the last 10,000 years. You can see on your screen letter pool. What you need to do is to search for the word that is related to earthquake. You only have 60 seconds to look for these words. You may place your answer on our comment section. Are you ready? Timer starts now. Time's up! Let's see if you found the words we are searching for. Okay, liquefaction, landslide, rupture, shaking, and tsunami. Very good. We have 5 words that has something to do with the words earthquake. Hit thumbs up and comment down virtual clap on our screen if you found any words from our word search. How do you think these words are related to earthquake? Exactly. Those words are some common potential earthquake hazards and its effects. And this is our topic for today. The first hazard is ground shaking. This is the disruptive up and down and sideways movement or motion experienced during an earthquake. Strong ground shaking can cause objects to fall and break windows, among others. Strong ground shaking can also result to minor damages to buildings and worse, cause collapse of structure. The damage or collapsed structure may consequently cause hazards such as liquefaction and landslide. On this image, you can see Hyatt Terraces Hotel in Baguio City collapsed during the July 16, 1990 Luzon earthquake. Our second earthquake hazard is ground rupture. It is a displacement on the ground due to movement of fault. This will be experienced by areas where fault passes through. The movement may have vertical and horizontal component and may be as small as less than 0.5 meters like on Masbate 1994 earthquake, to as big as 6 meters like on July 16, 1990 earthquake. Please take note, not all cracks on the ground that people see after a strong earthquake are faults. Some may just be superficial cracks because of ground failure. The effect of ground rupture is fissuring and displacement on the ground due to movement of fault. As you can see on this image, it is a continuous fault scarp on the North Bohol Fault in Barangay Anonang, Inabanga, Bohol, during the 1976 Moro Gulf earthquake. The third one is the sea waves resulting from the disturbance of ocean floor by an earthquake called tsunami. This is a series of giant sea waves commonly generated by under the sea earthquakes and whose heights could be greater than 5 meters. Example of recent tsunami events in the Philippines are the August 1976 Moro Gulf earthquake and tsunami and the November 1994 Oriental Mindoro earthquake. The effects of tsunami are flooding, coastal erosion, drowning of people, and damage to properties, just like on this image. A damaged jeep due to tsunami during the 1976 Moro Gulf earthquake. Our next hazard is mixing of sand or soil and groundwater during the shaking of a moderate or strong earthquake called as liquefaction. As a result, any heavy load on top of the sediment body will either sink or tilt as the sediment could no longer hold the load, such as what happened in Dagupan City during the July 16, 1990 earthquake. The effects of liquefaction are sinking and tittling of structure above it, sand boil and fissuring. On this image, You can see a gasoline tank pops out in Dagupan City due to liquefaction. Last common earthquake hazard is earthquake-induced landslide. It is a failure in steep or hilly slopes triggered by an earthquake, a downslope movement of rocks, solid and other debris commonly triggered by strong shaking. The effects of earthquake-induced landslide are erosion, burial, and blockage of road and rivers. On this photo, you can see the aerial shots of earthquake-induced landslide in Makilala, Cotabato. I have here a short video footage of Bohol earthquake happened on October 2013. It is a 7.2 magnitude tremor that killed more than 150 people, destroyed century-old churches, and affected more than 3 million families in central Visayas. It is one of the 5 strongest earthquakes that caused major destruction in Philippines. Observed on this video the effects brought by these earthquake hazards. Earthquake is really one of the deadliest geologic activity. Let us see how much you have learned from today's lesson. You can see on our screen jumbled letters. Rearrange the letters to form the correct word. Use the description below as your hint. You only have 30 seconds to place your answer on our comment section. Keyboard and keypad warriors, ready? First, okay, very good. That's ground shaking. Let's move to the second one. Time's up. The correct answer is landslide. You got it right. The third one. Time's up. The answer is ground rupture. Correct. Yeah. The fourth one. Correct. That is liquefaction. Our last number. Good job, guys. It's tsunami. Before I end my discussion, let's pay attention to the questions posted by some students on our group. First question from Lawang Bato National High School. What is the key difference between ground rupture and liquefaction? Thank you, Lawang Bato student, for this question. Ground rupture is displacement or shifting of ground due to movement of fault, while liquefaction is mixing of sand or soil and groundwater during shaking. Second question from Karuhatan National High School. What is the largest and strongest earthquake in history of the earth? Ah, good question. Based on the article I've read before in Australian Geographic, the biggest earthquake that is recorded happened on May 22, 1960. It is the Valdivia earthquake in Chile. It is a magnitude 9.5 earthquake. You may ask your discussion teacher on your school for other questions and concerns, and don't forget to do your activities on your module. This ends our lesson for today. Goodbye, class, and see you on our next discussion.